When you look at the ground, what do you see? You probably just think dirt, right? But what if I told you you're looking at a secret recipe? Yeah, a living, breathing mixture that's pretty much the foundation for all life on land. So today, we're going to crack open that recipe book.
So, if you were to scoop up a handful of that soil, what's really in there? It's definitely not just one thing. It's more like a precise mix of ingredients. In fact, there are just five key components, and each one plays an absolutely critical role. All right, let's break this whole thing down. We're going to dive into each of those 5 key ingredients in this, let's call it a master recipe. We'll figure out what they do, and you'll see why getting the proportions just right is so important.
Okay, first up, every good recipe has a base, right? The main ingredient that makes up the bulk of it. For soil, that's the mineral matter. Let's think of this as the flour in our recipe.
So where does this flour even come from? I want you to picture this. Over thousands, even millions of years, you've got wind, water, heat, cold, all of it just relentlessly grinding down huge rocks into teeny tiny particles. It's this epic process called weathering, and it's what creates the actual skeleton of our soil. And here's the thing, not all these mineral particles are created equal. Nope, there are 3 main types. First, you've got sand. It's large, it's rough, and water just zips right through it. Then there's silt, which is a bit smaller and smoother. And finally, you have clay. The particles are super small and sticky, so they hold on to water for dear life. It's the specific mix of these 3 that gives every soil its unique feel, its texture.
Okay, so we've got our flour. But you know, every great recipe needs something to give it richness, some flavor, right? In soil, that special ingredient is organic matter. This stuff creates something called humus, and this is what turns our plain old mineral flour into a rich, nutrient-packed dough.
So what is humus, exactly? Well, it's basically the final product after all the organic stuff, we're talking dead leaves, old roots, even tiny animals, has completely decomposed. It becomes this dark, rich, almost magical substance. Honestly, it's the true secret sauce for fertile soil. And man, is that secret sauce important. Humus is what makes soil fertile, kind of like a slow-release vitamin for plants. It also acts like a sponge, holding on to water when things get dry. Plus, it improves the soil's whole structure, making it way easier for roots to push through. It's a real workhorse. But wait, our recipe isn't done yet. We've just got the dry ingredients. You need some liquids to bring it all to life, right? For soil, the essentials are air and water, and they hang out in all the empty spaces between those solid particles we just talked about. Now, the water in soil is absolutely critical, and it's not just about keeping things from drying out. This water actually dissolves all the minerals and nutrients from that humus, creating this kind of nutrient smoothie that plant roots can just slurp right up. But it's not just water filling up those gaps. Air is in there too, and it is just as important. I know it sounds a little weird, but plant roots, they need to breathe. All the tiny organisms living in the soil need oxygen to survive too. So there's this constant delicate dance happening between water and air in those tiny spaces. And that brings us to a really crucial point. It is all about balance. Just think about it for a second. If the soil gets waterlogged, if there's way too much water, it pushes all the air out. The roots literally can't breathe. A plant can actually drown right there in the ground. Crazy, right? Okay, so we've got our flour, our flavor, and our liquids. But who's stirring the pot? Who's doing all the mixing? Well, that brings us to our final and very much alive ingredient, the underground workforce. You can think of these guys as the master chefs, constantly working, blending, and perfecting our soil recipe. And what a crew they are. Seriously, we're talking billions of bacteria and fungi whose whole job is to break down organic stuff into that precious humus. And then you've got the bigger players, the engineers, like earthworms, ants, and other little burrowing animals. They tunnel all over the place, mixing everything up and creating these super important channels for air and water to move through. All right, we've met all 5 ingredients. We know what they are, we know what they do. So now it's time for the big reveal. What are the perfect proportions? What does the ultimate soil recipe actually look like? So in a perfect, healthy soil, that flour, the mineral matter, makes up about 45% of the whole thing. That's the foundation. Next up, the flavor, our rich organic matter, the humus. Now get this, it's only about 5%. Just 5. It's a tiny amount, but trust me, its impact is huge. Then we've got our first liquid,
Water. In an ideal soil, it should take up about 25% of the space. And to perfectly balance out that water, the final 25% is filled with air. A perfect 50-50 split. Half water, half air.
And there you have it, the complete recipe. 45% minerals, 5% organics, 25% water, and 25% air. That's it. That's the ideal balance that lets farms grow our food and gardens explode with life. It's basically nature's perfect mix.
Okay, cool. So we've got the perfect recipe. But so what? Why does it matter so much? Why should we care about these exact percentages? What's the big deal? Because pretty much every single thing about soil health depends on it. This exact balance is what controls how well plants grow, how much water the soil can hold when there's a drought. It even controls how well air can move around so roots don't suffocate. It dictates the overall fertility. It's everything.
So let's just end on this thought. We've seen that soil isn't just dirt, not even close. It's a super delicate, incredibly important recipe that, sustains us. But here's the crucial part. Those ingredients, they aren't guaranteed to be there forever. And that leaves us with a really important question, doesn't it? If this truly is the recipe for life on land, what are we doing to protect its ingredients?